one, right? So LIP stands for leadership in practice. I was explaining to Megan, kind of walking into work this morning saying, if you like movies, like, people go on a quest. So our quest has been to unlock human performance for the next 100 years. Now, that might sound dramatic, so hopefully we'll back it up with some slides here. But the quest of unlocking human performance for the next 100 years. And what shows up in history is that it breaks apart every 100 years. So when you're frustrated at your boss, or frustrated at your company, or frustrated at government, or frustrated at just anybody around, and then where you probably should direct some frustration, if you haven't, at yourself. Of what's wrong with me? Why did I have another shitty day or shitty week, or this, what feels like a lot of energy being spent, but nothing really done. No accomplishment, but a ton of hand-wringing, a ton of just what I would call wasted emotional energy. And I was explaining at breakfast today, we're talking, it's almost like if you had a complaint box. Remember that old complaint box? Now it's so virtual. You can do it by creating a fake Gmail account and complain. You can do so many different ways. Go to social media on a fake pseudonym and just boom, complain. There's so many ways to complain. But how much energy we actually spend complaining without realizing we're complaining.
Right.
And
we're getting so used to it, I think, right? We're used to just waking up and feeling like, ugh, I gotta get this done, I gotta get that, and just complaining.
So I'm not
Actually,
sure.
that's not
That's
true.
not true.
That's right, that's not true. It's actually not to get stuff done. It's just complaining about all the problems and the issues.
Complaining about things and situations,
Yeah.
and if you really dug in, right, to what you're saying, you're hoping, and why it's a complaint is someone else fixes it. Whether it is, and this is the part, we don't actually spend time thinking about the energy, the vibe of what we're even saying. But if you really peel that apart, it's like, what are you saying? It would literally be like if you had a physical complaint box and I could wake up and I could throw in a bunch of complaints, right? And then it's like, I'm going to go to work now, right?
Yeah.
And then I might spend most of the day complaining. It should be easier, I wish someone would do this. And, if you peel it apart, there is a lot of thought gone into output or outcome, something I'd like done. But when it comes to the process, the input of how it's done, we're actually spending energy complaining.
I feel like that's what drives the notion of learned helplessness, right? I mean, you become helpless.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder how you get there over time. It's because you're complaining, hoping and believing or thinking someone else should do something, right?
Yeah.
Someone else should do it.
So by the way, feel free, as I said, just use chat aggressively. Do not feel like this is like classrooms where you're told to sit on your hands and be quiet. Literally get disruptive in the chat, because we have Laura here who is supposed to pay attention, and she sometimes does and sometimes doesn't, but of kind of engaging, helping you fill your ADD to have multiple conversations at once with different people while going through the topics. But what tends to happen for a lot of us is as we're going through the class, thoughts come up and then you forget. So at that moment, capture it if you can, right there in the chat. And so at least there's a trail. What were you gonna say,
Your
Mark?
Zoom controls are like over your presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, no, sorry. All right, give me a second.
Give us a second, you guys.
I will. Sorry,
Some of
give
you
me a
may
second.
have seen that cover page before. I think we may have shared it in one of the classes. So Charlie's daughter Olivia has a sticker store.
Oh, yeah.
He has to buy the stickers with
It's a-
hugs and kisses, or I don't know exactly what you
No,
have to do for that.
real money, real money.
Oh, real money, sorry.
It's
not
actually
hugs and
like
kisses.
a, I don't know why it's doing, a second. Yeah, no, it's, if you ever have
Fight with Brooke Cash.
conniving,
Oh, she's,
so I have two kids, but the person who sort of rules, at least I gave her, I guess, power to rule our house, is actually my 10-year-old. She's quite a devious one, but also just like kind of my boss. So she created like a whole currency system for every dollar I get. Her name is Olivia Alex Kim. So the initials are OAK, Oak. So she calls it Oak Bank, and there's Oak currency. So I have these like made up, dollar bills. For every $1 real, I get 10 Oak dollars, which is like 10 cents each. And then every time she actually has sold $10 of oak currency, I have to give her an extra bonus dollar, which I don't know how that got added
I don't know
in.
how she could.
But it's like a pretty sophisticated system that
She's-
borders somewhere from like a new currency banking system meets Nigerians meets a 10-year-old. Like, it's like a Nigerian scheme of like frauding currency. I say Nigerian just because I grew up there, but I don't know why my thing is struggling, but yes,
So
sorry.
try it one more time and see if we can get this right. Yeah. Maybe in the meantime, while we just figure this piece of it out, when you think about your morning routine, maybe I'll just kind of prod you guys to think about what happens when you wake up, from the moment you wake up until you maybe get to work, right? Like, what's happening in the morning? Like, do you have routines? And think less about the weekend, think about the weekday, like Monday through Friday. Think about your week in the morning. When you wake up, what do? Do you grab your phone? Do you get right out of bed? Do you have routines and things that you do automatically that are good for you? What are the kinds of things that you do? What are the good things? Maybe what are the bad things? Like, think a little bit about that. You could enter it into the chat. Any thoughts just while we're seeing if we can figure out this thing that never happens?
Want to run it from a different computer?
I can do it from here actually in a second. But yeah, you guys think about your morning routines.
Sorry, hold on a sec.
What gets you ready for work? What gets you ready to get into some difficult work? Or do you not even think about getting into difficult work? Are you thinking about the complaint box that you want to lob some complaints into when you
I-
walk
I-
into work in the
Try
morning?
doing Control-Alt-Shift-H right now.
Control, Alt,
Shift-H.
Nice cup of tea, Leon likes a
Oh, I
nice cup
did
of
part of
tea.
it.
Coffee, news, and morning run 3 times a week.
Send me the link, Charlie, you just want to do it from.
that little box is
That's
me
better.
seeing myself, so,
That's okay, right?
okay, so it's not as bad.
That's not so bad.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Tea and coffee,
This
so
little
far,
box.
no complaint. I work from home, so I
Is
roll
that-
out of bed and log in.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put this little box at the very bottom. If you don't know what that black box is, that's just,
The
All
pictures,
right.
okay.
So, yeah, morning routine. And why morning routine matters a lot is that every piece of work we've ever done when it comes to human beings, this is very unlike a machine. A machine is more like emotionless, constant. But what ramp you get on at the very beginning of the day has a larger impact on your entire day. In the very same way, the ramp of how you start Monday has the largest impact of the whole week. So forth, right? So the first week of the quarter has the largest impact for the whole quarter. And so this notion of the start, right? How you start has a materially larger impact on everything you touch. And so the single most important window to look at is your morning routine. Literally from when you wake up, the first 30 minutes matters most. Some people might go to 60 minutes, right? And as Megan
Yeah.
said, this is module 4 is a leadership decision program that we've created over the years. It's the 4th module that goes for 13 weeks, all around decision-making in uncertainty. How do you drive change, innovate? How do you actually like produce productive things when the world is so uncertain, not straightforward, and a lot of ambiguity, right? Everything's interconnected. And so we're teaching components that you need to know within it, which is why module 4 is probably going to go longer than 13 weeks, to be honest, because there's so much complexity in it. But the morning routine at the start of and we're talking 5 days a week here.
Yeah.
For most people. I heard Greece is trying to pass some law to make 6-day work weeks. Now, we have certain countries that have actually passed laws to, look at Terry shaking her head. Certain countries who have passed 4-day work weeks. I think right now, nobody knows. I don't think anybody knows what the right answer is, right? Should it be 3-day work weeks? Should it be 4-day work weeks? Should it be 6-day work weeks? Or are we working 7 days a week and not even realizing it? Or like, and so the way that I think about it right now, having a distinctive difference in your morning routine for the 5 days versus the 2 days in the weekend.
Right.
Vacation, this is not for vacation. So this is a cover of a notebook I carry around, and this is my, part Nigerian, Korean, 10-year-old daughter is almost 11. And so these are very expensive stickers I had to buy. And I picked these two because it's supposed to be a lion, but I couldn't find a lion who's playful. So this is a tiger, but I'm at the cusp of Cancer and Leo as far as a birthday goes. So put this on top, CK is my initial. And why playfulness tends to matter a lot. That playfulness, when they studied different aspects of how you end up vibing energy, is one of the biggest signals of resiliency. Your ability to take information in that wasn't to what you expected, that wasn't to plan. Bad news, adjusting plans, but also playfulness tends to have a very self-driven element to it versus usually when you're not playful, it's always like, yes, boss, or some rule, enterprise, authority, bureaucracy that's like bolted you down. So as a result of it, I'm like operating in the confines of what feels like prison, right? And I'm supposed to do well. And so playfulness is very different. So a lot of times we think about children connected to playfulness.
Yeah.
Yes, they learn over time to be conditioned to sit on their hands and not, scream and move and whatnot in classrooms. But as soon as they're out, it's almost like they've been let out of prison, right? It's like, rah! Like, they're just like running out, screaming and like physically,
Yeah.
like emotionally, mentally, but the notion of how do we find that exact same feeling as adults? And how do we find it in the right way? Not to be out of prison or school, right? And go for like whatever's happening after school. But how do we do it to get ready for work? And they say work is a 4-letter word because it rhymes with other 4-letter words, right? Whether it's an adult class, so shit, fuck, whatever you want to
Thanks.
say, right? It's just a lot of,
I think we know.
like, most people think work and they don't think, wow, I'm so excited for work, or wow, like, that's the best part of my day.
Right,
Or
right.
wow, like, it's so great to have work in my life. It's more like, work, fuck, shit, God, work, I gotta get to work. Oh, it's work. I can't wait for work to end. So there's a whole mindset. And so how do we get ready in the morning routine for that? So first thought, this is kind of like the classic Twitter morning routine. It says your morning routine doesn't have to be 4 hours long, involve a cold plunge, just nail the basics. And then there's a whole bunch of what I would call like stuff I don't think you even have to bother with. A lot of people are dying because to give you advice in the information age, we are just covered with advice, which of course, ironically, here we are giving you some advice, but throw it out if you don't like it. But what I see often out there is too much generic stuff, not focused enough, and a lot focused on willpower, right? Kind of like think about positive stuff, go, like almost like mind control yourself and now go into the crazy ambiguity of work. Doesn't work. If it does work for you, keep doing it. But most people, we need more. And so how can we give you maybe some different tools and strategies to help you and to recognize the importance of this first 30-minute window? All right, so first, let's understand the problem a little better, because a lot of times people say, well, I never had that issue, like what, pre-COVID, or I never had that issue. And the problem, and we're talking about this a lot, that most people come into work bouncing between these two emotions of hoping and bracing. Right?
I really feel like labeling this has been really helpful for me. It's an important way to think about a lot of our energy, and the way Charlie started the class, a lot of our energy is spent hoping and bracing. And I don't know if you would articulate it that way or even aware of it, but as you become more mindful, whatever word you want to use, more aware, self-aware, I think more often than we care to admit, we are hoping that we're going to have a good week or have a good day, but we're also bracing that we're not going to have a good week, we're not going to have a good day. And how much energy goes into worrying about that, or hope worrying would be the bracing, but hoping, and how that's setting us up for a really bad day, a really bad week, because one person could say one thing to you, like, boo, and it's like, now I'm having a bad day, and you can feed into that. Like, it's almost like you're in a mindset to be angry, or if you're upset, to get startled, to get frustrated, easily upset,
easily startled, easily frustrated, easily desperate. right?
It's like too easy,
And-
right? Like
and then
something so
somehow-
little has to happen.
And then somehow you're like, take a breath,
Yeah, yeah.
take a breath,
It's like, okay, take a deep breath.
things will work
Yeah,
out, right? Which is all feeding into this hoping,
yeah,
right?
that's right.
Things will work out.
Yeah,
It's not as bad as it is, right? And you listen to the words tell you everything. It's not as bad as it is. What are you talking about, right? Like everything is kind of like these, and remember
But-
Stephen Kotler?
but I was gonna say the hoping and bracing, it does make you think, a bit related to the conversation you just had, what you were just saying before. Hoping and bracing, if you're hoping and bracing for something, that means it's something out of your control, right? It's something out of my control. I can't control it. I'm hoping something good is gonna happen and I'm hoping something bad is
Well, I
not
like
gonna
this.
happen.
I-
So that means I'm
sorry.
not in control,
I like what you're
right?
saying.
I have no control. I'm not,
Years ago, a Columbia professor, top MBA professor there, his name is Hitendra. Hitendra always said to us, there are always constraints. But what are your options and choices?
Yeah.
Despite the constraints.
Yeah.
And that notion of not spending time, right? The complaint box is, let me tell you about the constraints. Blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what are your options and choices? Meaning, what factor are you gonna play today?
right,
Right? Or is today just to kind of creatively come up with more constraints?
it's
Right?
interesting, because.
Let me add to my
Well,
constraint list.
the Royal Navy, I know Richard knows this too, the word empowerment is a big one that the Royal Navy is trying to figure out, how do we empower our leaders, right? And that is exactly what we're trying to figure out, right? Like, how do you get to a place where you empower yourself and don't victimize yourself that someone else has got to make sure that XYZ gets done or something good happens or something bad doesn't happen? It's, what responsibility, which sounds more heavy to say it that way, but what responsibility or what's in your control? What can you do to,
And
change
well, this whole
something.
idea of, like, are you a factor at all? Because oftentimes, at the very top, you might say, hey, if you weren't here, at least I wouldn't have a longer list of complaints.
right?
Like, and finger pointing outing problems, right? Like, I have a list of more problems and more problems and more problems. I'm like, so on one hand, there are times where that's important,
Yeah,
but do you play any role in trying to solve it? Like, is that in your plans at all for the day,
for the day.
for the week, for the quarter, for the year? And that has to turn into this notion of, despite the constraints, what are my options and choices? What could I do to actually take a dent, make a difference? Now, I like this image because here is the classic, like, buried in all types of malaise, right? And they say oftentimes, we don't know who created the malaise. And when you really dig into it, 1 to 2% is from the outside. 98 to 99 is self-created in your own mind, much more than you realize. And this is showing up repeatedly in all the stats, in all the neuroscience, that we generate a lot of the weight that we feel mentally. It's called mental chatter. But when someone asks you, how are you doing? That's exactly what it looks like. Thumb goes up, all good, right? I'm okay.
Nothing to see here.
A-okay, all good. Looking forward to doing something productive today. And so recognizing, how do we get here, right? So this is a slide from Lip 63. So if you go back, there's several slides. We had similar slides like this. If you look back at the 100 years, this is what used to be. In the industrial age, they were talking about how 90% of jobs had low ambiguity. They were routine in nature. And the speed that things are moving, and this was done pre-COVID, by the way, this
Yeah, study.
article and study, right? And this was done with a guy named Roger Martin. But it was talking about how fast the world is moving. And so what we call the light work versus dark work, the left side is kind of, think of it as straightforward work. On the right side is not straightforward or uncertain dark work. It shifted from 90-10. And so, by the way, so this is a slide I'm going to get to, which is 60-40. This was pre-COVID, right? So this is talking about industrial age. I show this in actually an earlier lip. I forgot which lip this was from.
A few weeks
But
ago.
Josh Burson, sort of top HR analyst, his entire work in HR is that, well, this is a new skill every organization is looking for, right? Not even your ability to change, your ability to drive the change. If you read the article, he didn't put it in his headline because it sounds so heavy. Wait, it's my job to drive the change?
Yeah.
He's saying that is the single most sought after skill in every industry, every organization. It is, when we say the quest to unlock human performance for the next 100 years, this is the 201st attempt at trying to actually unravel the bare minimum first few steps to unlock this skill. No matter what industry, no matter what job, what level. If you have the skills, as in the ability to drive change, and that is not a fixed skill, it's a growth mindset, constantly evolving, constantly able to upgrade skill. That is what everyone is looking for. And his point was, this is what you need to learn. And if you learn this, forget about job security, you will be in demand. You will be like that Michael Jordan high school player. I don't know if he was actually recruited heavily, but whoever was recruited heavily, Shaquille O'Neal was recruited heavily. But like, who was recruited like crazy? That's the skill that everyone wants. And if you have that skill, you can learn how to use all the tools available, including other people, AI, whatnot. And this is what everyone wants. So this was the slide we had shown on LIP 63 too. Sorry, it's a little busy, but it was saying, this was all pre-COVID. It was 60-40. I believe what's happened is at this point, it has shifted almost 10 versus 90, meaning most of what's out there for work is close to 90% high ambiguity work for human beings. Tech is taking things that is straightforward and doing it faster and better, lower wage jobs at a global level, right? You outsource to the Philippines, right? It's like a fifth of the cost, you can get that same job done. And they always smile and have like amazing response. You work with someone here in the office or even work from home, it's like the complaint box is like just ask like any thoughts and any complaint, like, so the difference, you don't hear from the Philippines outsourced worker. It seems to always be like, we'll get that done and happy smile. And that's where jobs are moving. On the right, the skill you need to be able to be paid at the highest level and maintain, forget retention, but actually just salary, income, bonuses, everything, equity moving up. You need to be able to have the skills to navigate uncertainty, deal with it, but also then drive offense or success into it. The two metrics that our team spent time measuring and building is these two things here that mattered most. This was actually from the metrics presentation on LIP. You have to be able to dial down your fear of making mistakes. Somebody called it radical humiliation, right? Or radical humility, which is the basis of humiliation, is where humility comes from. And then dial up risk-taking, which is sticking your neck out and actually doing something. As in, complaining can feel like doing something, but actually taking action. And you know when you've taken risk is because if something goes wrong, everyone will point the finger at you. And you will get statements like, what the hell were you thinking? And then you're like, I'm sorry, I didn't think enough. I should have thought more, gone slower. And now you're doing the opposite, which is not taking any risk. So this is the challenge of how to navigate.
That's why we have all the modules that we've developed over the years, right? Because this stuff isn't, you just can't hear it and say, you know what, let me dial down my fear of making mistakes. Second, you get punched in the face, you make a mistake and somebody says something like that to you, which is what were you thinking? You go right back to where you were. I wasn't thinking of it, whatever. And then you go right back into like just the complaint box. And I'm just going to wait for someone else to hopefully make sure that we have a good day and a good week and things get done, right? Okay.
So this slide, Megan
Yeah.
was hoping for this slide, so I put it.
Okay, yeah.
And I think there's a key assumption here, which is why I show the first three slides. On the very right, the assumption says challenging mission, as in not a vacation day, not a weekend, right? So if we don't have challenging mission, this routine is way overdone, as in not need to do this. But if you have a challenging mission, and the challenging mission of navigating this right side, right? Where most things in work now are not straightforward. This is where it's going to matter. And in theory, most people say, have a better mindset, be positive, be resilient, be tough, believe in yourself, and all that stuff, by the way. And a lot of research has been done that Stephen Kotler, Megan sort of loved and brought in our lives. What's the phrasing you said? Like,
I can't remember what you're talking
sorry, your
about.
brain has a BS meter.
Oh, the BS
right?
meter, yeah, that you can tell it's something, but your brain knows when you're lying to it, right? Saying you're amazing today, you can do it. It's like you know when you're just like.
You're
lying
gonna
to
have a
yourself.
good day. When you say you're gonna have a good day, what I hear already is a layering of
Yeah.
holy shit, it's gonna be a bad day. We do it a lot, right? Well, I'm gonna do better today. Now, that means you're already screwed, right? Your mindset already is preparing to lose. And so it's amazing how subtle the language is. And oftentimes the words don't convey it. You can
Right.
feel the vibe.
Yeah.
You can feel the vibe of someone who is on a mission. We'll show you a video later with Michael Phelps, but I like the punchline from Michael Phelps is, I am going to do this and nobody's gonna stop me. I'm gonna do this and nobody's gonna stop me vibes versus everything else. And usually everything else is not, I'm gonna do this. It's like, I'm gonna find another reason why this was an impossible task that was given to me, right? And I'm gonna give you another reason why today was not the day this is gonna get done. I'm gonna give you another reason why this is actually maybe completely impossible, so why should I even bother anyways? And there's gonna be a whole bunch of vibes and energy, which is why this whole pep talk yourself into this positive, language, it's been so overdone. The research is showing that it actually has the exact reverse effect. Like, and remember,
Yeah.
we're meeting with a woman who climbed
What's
all
that
the top
mountain?
mountains,
That top
and
one?
she said, like, at the end of the marathon saying, you can do this. When someone says you can do this, all you hear is the opposite. You can't do this.
At the race,
You
you're
could
like, your hands
die.
like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. It's like saying, I must look like I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. It does the opposite.
Because it's like saying, I need that. I must look so pathetic. They're saying, you can do it. You can do it, right? Don't give up, right? It's like, do I look like I'm giving up, about to give up? And yet we do it not only to everybody else.
Yeah.
We don't recognize how we do that to ourselves.
That we're saying.
And when you
can do it.
hear your own words saying what I consider kind of
Well,
really insulting, pathetic, sympathetic statements, right? You hear it.
You know
And you
what it
hear
is?
exactly what it's.
You know what it is, Charlie? Sorry, the Simone
Okay.
Biles we shared last week, that you
Mhm.
got this.
Yeah.
When Simone Biles says, you got this, it's because that's a layer on top of 1,000 other things that she's done to prepare herself and her mindset, her body, all the work she's had to do. We're not seeing the 99% other things she does daily, rigorously, relentlessly working on her mind and her body. So all we see at the Olympics is she says, you got this. To us, we're like, oh, if I just say that, no, she has like 99 other things she does every day. She doesn't wake up and go, I don't know, make her coffee and sit and read a book or whatever. No. She has probably some crazy aggressive routine when the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. saying, don't be a wimp. I can get up today. We will show you with the Michael Phelps, a great example of, didn't even matter if it was Christmas, his birthday, 5 years in a row, every day. And you wonder, how does somebody do that, right? Like, if they have all these things stacked up. So when we just see them on the podium or they get interviewed and somebody says, he's like, I meditate, I tell myself I can do it, I visualize, whatever. That's like the extra stuff, but they're doing that and they're doing that every day and, deliberately and and through pain and all of that, but we see kind of the optical, you got this, you can do it, I'm amazing, I can do this, but it seems so simple, which is why I think us common folk think that we can just say what Simone Biles said, you got this, and. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes,
Sorry.
I just went on a rant on that,
I
but
like it. Usually I'm ranting and Megan's
Did
like, are you gonna continue? So.
is that how you felt for
Oh,
once?
oh,
You just
yeah,
remember
no,
me?
quite a bit. Yeah.
Did you? And that
Did I
was,
feel that?
and by the way,
Did I
that was
feel that?
only 2 minutes?
I don't know.
You
It
do
felt
that-
longer.
You
It
do
felt
that for
longer.
like 20, you see?
I have a lot of content to share. We're on a quest. We're on a quest, right?
We're on a
Okay.
quest.
So we wake up in the morning, right? And the worst version of it occurs on Mondays, right? You know that whole Sunday
Night scaries.
scaries, whatever, and then Monday morning blues or Monday morning, like, my God, I have to go to jail, right? Which is called work, or for kids, it's called school, right?
Yeah.
About to begin or has already begun, right? You wake up in the morning and there's an interesting part that happens in our brain. It's expectation, right? It's a past prediction, and often that did not come true. Oftentimes, we finished work last week, we might have fired off a bunch of emails or whatnot, and you wake up Monday and you don't even realize that I was hoping for some news off that. I was hoping to start Monday by someone saying, wow, you know what? Kevin McCoy, that work you did last week, that was fantastic, right? We're just excited for this. Or, Heidi, that email you sent, right? Like,
Wow.
I know you've been looking for a response. I spent all weekend thinking about it. And before you wake up, I want to get in your inbox, right? My
Mm.
response to your great work outlined correctly, so I hope this starts your day right. Meaning we don't even recognize the minute we wake up,
haven't
we tend to pick up our phone, and everyone says, don't pick up your phone. You know what? We're in a digital age of information. If you don't pick up your phone, you might not realize World War III began, right? Let's be honest.
And the
There's so much,
situational awareness is gonna be out the door.
no, so much stuff is going on. You kind of want to know what's going on now. Like, are we in World War III? Is there a new war? Is there going to be safe to walk outside? Is there a new disease that if I'm not aware, I might go to the fridge and touch a fruit that might actually,
Yeah, what's the
Like,
new
be
thing I have to be
recalled.
scared of, yeah,
like, so you wake up and you're quickly scanning for like
problems.
dangers, or you're scanning for information, right? And one of the things is, what was that?
I was relating to scanning for problems, so it's like you're scanning for information.
Scanning for information.
But
It's really
I
cool.
think the first thing we do, to be quite frank, and this is a natural reaction, we scan for information that's coming to me.
Yeah.
So, comms standing for communication. What communication is coming to me? It comes usually in the form of text messages at the top pecking order.
Yeah.
Right? Because not many people have my cell phone. So
Right.
those who are texting me, it's like of higher urgency. Then you might check your email, or some of you who love to use all the other, like
Slack,
WhatsApp and
WhatsApp.
Slack and everything else. You're like quickly checking, but Slack could have like a gazillion trail of conversation. So maybe you leave it, but it could be WhatsApp and certain things you're just checking, right? And what you don't realize is you have a prediction of what you expected to
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
Based on things you've done from last week, emails you might have sent, WhatsApp messages, text messages, you're expecting something, and usually it's hoping for something productive based on what you had done before. And that is a past prediction that did not come true. Because-
And I think we actually get used to that feeling, right? Even Kevin saying, LOL, that's so rare. It's so rare to have somebody respond to some work that you think is really important and you've prioritized. So you just sent out an email that maybe you spent all day, all week, kind of hoping to get that out, feel good about it, and nobody responds. And you
Well,
kind of get used to.
First, we just realize there are times when you get, you idiot, or what the hell did you do? Like, that happens, but much less than we actually think.
Yeah.
We
Get
think,
silence more.
no, so we think that's happening more often. 98, 99% of the time, no response. It's like no response, as if all the work you had done, all the notes you sent,
Doesn't
didn't
matter.
even warrant I got it, right?
Yeah.
I haven't responded yet, but I got the message. It literally has a, wait,
Yeah.
did they not get it? Maybe it got buried. Did I send it? Like, there are many things that literally get silence back at you.
Mhm.
The most common response you're gonna get is silence, as in no even reaction to all the work you did, all the comms, the communication you sent, no reaction.
Yeah.
And that does not feel good. That does not feel good. And so you're waking up, bam, not even sure why I feel kind of shitty.
Yep.
Okay? And then how quickly we're making new predictions. Now, this is where the bracing comes in,
Mhm.
right? You went from not realizing I had all this hope, but that hope just got wrecked by past predictions, and now I am predicting what's going to come next. And that's the bracing. And it might even sound like this. What's the point of even going to work this week, right? What's the point of even waking up and doing something? Because no one's going to respond anyways. The work I do seems to make no difference. It doesn't move the needle, right?
It's
The whole like,
impossible, why bother?
it's impossible, why bother is the general theme that shows up. And that's that awful bracing malaise. And then you'll do the, okay, smile, right? Smile, you're gonna have a better day, right? Like, let me think of some Disney movie and right? You're going to work and you're like, and everyone's like, are you okay? Because you seem like in your head. And,
No,
like-
not me. Don't look here. I'm thinking
And
about
then-
Disney movies.
yeah, and then you
I'm
walk
happy,
in
I'm
and they're
okay.
like, all right, you ready to do some really tough work? And they're like, huh, what? It's not gonna make a difference anyways, but sure, yes, thumbs up, I'm okay, right? I like this thing, this little tweet someone said, some people find fault like there is a reward for it,
Sorry,
right? So
this
I
one makes me
translated
laugh.
into my plain English here, making new predictions in a bad mood, right? Equals not only not accurate, we're spiraling negative, we're bracing as we hunt for shit eggs. So if you like Easter, right, and like, Easter egg hunting, like my daughter's favorite of all the things to do. So instead of finding eggs with like candy in it and maybe money or whatnot, you're like finding eggs full of shit. Like it's like a reward. Like, oh, I found another
I
problem.
found another problem. Yeah, yeah. Did you
Right?
know there's a
I
problem
found
here?
another
Problem
challenge,
here too,
right?
yeah. Mhm,
I found a new way I can describe to you why this is impossible, right?
mhm,
Like I can give you one more reason why it's not even worth bothering, right?
mhm.
Just constantly sourcing, seeking, and finding shit eggs. That's like the idea that we find fault, like there's a reward. Someone's giving us a reward. Hey, you got an egg. You got an egg. You got an Easter egg. Boom, 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 right? So how you started the day matters. And we don't even recognize, by the way, this is how we're starting the day, right? How you started the day, and then the minute you bump into a teammate, even over Zoom or in person, right? You can imagine someone who has woken up,
Yeah.
right? Hoping, but then got wrecked with something that didn't happen to
That's
what they
wrecked.
expected.
It is wrecked.
But it's like silent wrecked, right? You don't even
Yeah,
realize.
Yeah.
Then
yeah.
you're starting to make new predictions of what it's gonna be like bracing as you're hunting for these shit eggs. And then you meet a teammate and these two people come together and they do a thumbs up through the mess, right? How are you doing? Thumbs up, ready to have a good week, right?
Yeah.
I
That's
wrote,
exactly what happened.
buried in crappy thoughts, but signaling I'm good.
Good.
And once the stress gets higher, as in something negative just shows up.
Well, this is the thing, right? The
Right.
20th century industrial age, you could get by like that every day. Nobody cares what your mood is. It doesn't matter. Sit down and crank out the work. Just get it done. I mean, and all of us, most of us, unless you're like in the, I don't know, you might be 19, 20, 21 starting out, but most of us have worked in an environment like that for long enough to know that worked. And that was awesome. And you got rewarded for working really hard and keeping your mouth shut. Nobody wants to hear it. Come in, grab your coffee, sit down and just start cranking and get it done. That's it. That's all you had to do. And your
sorry.
mood and your emotion and your
Can I tell you
expectation.
the subtlety of what you just said? What does get it done mean? See, this is the
Yeah,
part.
the kind of
Now we have to
work.
say,
What is-
what does that mean when someone says, sit down and get it done?
Well, even like Steve, I think.
Get what done? As in
Steve-
fire off an email?
I guess Steve probably in Boston is saying on Monday wanting to get the direction of what to do in the morning and not getting that, then sitting in ambiguity, what do I do? Do to look productive. That's,
But I'm saying the
Yeah.
subtlety of get it done.
yeah,
What is the job description now? And someone will say, move the needle,
drive change.
advance the company, right? More money, more metrics, more this, more readiness, more
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Get that done.
get that done.
What does that mean?
Ah.
There's a part of, what does it actually mean? Go into detail, try to translate it, break down the steps of what you're supposed to do. And you're like, I actually have no clue. But I found some shit eggs.
Yeah, from some shit.
Someone needs to know, right? There's more faults in the system than anyone realized. I found some new ones. Where does that go? Who do I tell?
Right,
Because if someone knew this, the rules might change, the
Yeah.
direction might change.
yeah,
But like, I don't know, I woke up, I found 6 shit eggs, and then I walked into work and I see 12 more. And I'm like, where does this go? And then someone asks you, how are you doing? Your thumbs come up, right? All good, thumbs up. But what happens is this, the minute you get something more stressful,
yeah.
all of the shit eggs like fall out from like under your shirt. And everyone's like,
It's like you're holding them in
You
here. You're like,
were-
no, no, I'm good. Like, can you go figure out how the strategy of how to drive change in
You
this
were
part of our
hiding-
business? And it's like, do you see all these shit eggs under here?
you were hiding all that and you faked the thumbs up, all is good, right? You had all of that under your shirt, or said another way, in your head, and you were gonna go and what? Ability to drive change, like ability to advance the
Yeah.
work, the mission, whatever it is, but you signaled thumbs up, all good, right? You wrapped it in I'm gonna have a great day, I'm gonna have a
Yeah.
great week. And so it comes out once the stress hits a breaking point. So here's Megan sent me this morning,
I
right?
saw this morning. You don't need a better phone. You don't need a better home. You don't need a better job. You don't need a better car. You don't need a better suit. You need a better mindset.
So easy, right? You just
work
need
on
to
it.
find a way to get rid of all those shit eggs, right?
Mhm.
And then every habit you have of collecting more, and then you'll be fine, right? You'll be in a better mindset to now go and do really difficult work. It's no longer punch in, sit down, and just keep punching holes, to make that, whatever it is, belt holes. That's my job. I just punch in a few belt holes, 6 per belt, and then I just do as many as I can, get my lunch break, come back, punch holes, and then punch out of work, and then go back to my life at home. That's not work anymore. And instead of punching holes, it's not. I come to work, I open my email, I check what's going on, right? Then I open a couple spreadsheets, maybe open a Word document, a PowerPoint, and then walk around, see what everyone else is doing. Are you guys all punching holes too? You got PowerPoint open? Good. You got Excel open? Good. Did you see that email? What email? Oh, let me look at it now.
Charlie.
That's what people are doing.
Yeah.
Better mindset. And this is where it's
Because
not.
it is true, you do need a better mindset, but doing that work and figuring out how to do that is the hardest thing in the world, which is why it's the foundational thing that will change your life, but it's so hard to understand, for one, what's going on in there, to share it, get it sharpened, let it be challenged, which is the only way to actually improve it. If you can't improve what you can't see, so
So
it is the hardest work.
I'm gonna share
This little video I found, I like it.
social media Instagram version of how to solve for this.
Yes, try
And
this
I'm
one,
hoping,
guys.
this, sorry, I'm
I'm being
not,
serious. This is actually part of what we need to start doing, which is the idea of, you'll see what we're gonna talk about, but it's the idea of how do you dial down a behavior so then you can replace it and dial up other
so
behaviors.
of the many things you have to do,
This
and
is
this
one of
might,
them.
if you're getting offended, this is not me, this is somebody else speaking, right? So don't get offended. But if you're too offended, you can just jump out of this class. And there's a recording, but this is the internet's version of how forceful you have to act to crush that negative voice in your head looking for shit eggs, okay? So we'll put it, we'll play it, right?
Overcoming the negative conversation, that inner dialogue that's going on all the time, even when you don't want it to be there. You can't stop yourself right now from thinking. You can't do it. It's going on. And so learning how to empower yourself, part of doing that is standing up to yourself. You've got to stand up inside yourself sometimes and say, shut up. I was going to give a presentation, and this voice inside of me saying, you can't do this. You don't have everything it takes. Shut up. I'm behind on my bills and you're telling me what I can't do. I have got to do it. You'll get scared sometimes. Your mind will go blank on you. Some people you will allow to unnerve you. And you wonder, what's wrong with me? I'm not crazy. That's why you've got to learn to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to stand up inside yourself. Working on yourself, watching that inner dialogue, it will determine the quality of your life.
I like this, they're unmuted. I like this because, and I had sent it to Charlie, this idea of just shut up, right? Like you actually have to tell yourself, it's almost like like a wake up call, but I do think I relate to how fast you can, I think you said self-sabotage, like how fast you can get into a spiral, like you're just spiraling on different thoughts, and how you need to find a way to just stop doing it, right? To, like, even in the moment, I think there was a class a few weeks ago, we put up it was like a sign of saying, stop doing that, right? Like just stop. And it's not going to be enough to change what you're going to do, but it's learning to first stop continually feeding this bad. It's like even in your, health and wellness, right? You have to stop eating sugar if you want to get healthy, like learning and just eating healthier foods or exercising or doing all these other things. If you don't dial down something, right, that's bad that you're doing, no amount of good things you're trying to do is going to make any difference if you keep, eating the bad thing, or in this case, you keep talking negatively about yourself. You keep telling yourself you suck. You keep telling yourself I can't do this, or complaining, or all that negative stuff. So I like this, right? Because it's saying you actually have to talk to yourself very aggressively, because the negative self-talk is very aggressive, right? That internal terrorist. You have to say, like, I would like to add an F-bomb to it, right? Like stop, like shut the F up, right? Like just, so that's part one, right? Which is just, you have to learn to know when it's happening and then stop.
Right, I got the technical thing fixed while Megan filled the void, so thank you. But no, that was good.
Oh,
That was good.
yeah.
But I think if you like the video, right, I feel that's like one avenue, but I feel for most of us, we need more, right? I hope that your life's problems and every which way the day goes, the week goes, doesn't get solved by simply telling yourself to shut the F up.
That's just one
Right.
small.
And I feel that is something that we need to rep and practice, but want to give you another tool and strategy, which is kind of, and I call this the ultimate pregame. As in your morning routine, the first 30 minutes if you get this right, it is the ultimate pregame because it disproportionately changes the probability of having a better day, right? Better than the days you've been having. So we're going to go into this. So in theory, right, I think about these four parts. First is I need truth. If I don't have truth, you'll see decisions, good decisions are very difficult to make without the right information. And usually the information we block out is difficult information, tough information, bad information. So we need the truth, and then the emotions, the three emotions that need to get kind of turned on, what I call sort of green lighted, is a fighter's mindset, which is being tough, but also balance with being calm, because that's what gives you objectivity and doesn't let you like break stuff. But then playfulness, which is kind of like being mentally light, the notion of being agile, light on your feet. So you need these four things before you're able to really do work, like really tough work. So when I think about what happens, when it comes to truth, we don't like difficult truth. So we tend to glom onto what I would call half truths. Do you ever read an email and it's like bad news, so you only read really half of it? And then you determine like, you know what? I think it's going to make me depressed or upset. And you don't know what the rest of it says. And it could have turned the corner, but you don't know. There's a lot of things when someone's like, you know, can I give you some feedback? Which is kind of code for, can I tell you something critical? And you're like, just give me the headline. Okay, that's enough. I can't take it right now. I don't know what the other half is. This notion of no truth, half truths, it leads to bad decision making. It happens for any human being. If you don't get as much information as possible, and the information we block out is the difficult information. When you're not tough, you can't overcome difficulties. You give up and you say, no, I never give up. Well, no, you don't give up, but you utter the words, it's impossible, why bother? You know, whatever you touch with that phrase is the same as giving up. It might optically look like you're not giving up, but you know, and only you know, that you did not give it the Michael Phelps phrase of, I'm going to do this and nobody's going to stop me. That's the opposite of it's impossible, why bother? So when I say you're not tough, there's a whole book, The Fighter's Mindset, all about warriors and whatnot. It's impossible, why bother is not in that book.
So interesting because what you just said is only you know, because your actions can show, I'm not going to show you I don't believe it can get done, but I truly believe this is impossible. So why bother? But optically, I'm going to look like I believe it can happen, right? I feel like that happens a lot, right? You're not actually giving up, but you're inside you've given up, but you're not going to share that, right?
Saying the difference you'll see is Michael Phelps saying, I'm going to do this and nobody's going to stop. That's what we call 60-hour rat energy. If you look at past slips, there's a whole class on rat energy and what we mean, versus there's 15-minute rat energy. That's what we do. The thumbs up, right? What's going on in the back of my head is this task is impossible, right? I can't say why bother, so I'm going to look like I do care, right? I'm going to look like I'm going to try, but I'm going to give it a good 15-minute rat energy, right? And so the minute a constraint hits, or in your Easter egg hunting of shit eggs, oh, I found 6 new eggs that no one thought about.
Yeah.
My God, it went from impossible to it's definitely impossible. You're giving up and everyone can see it and feel it, except you could convince yourself you're not, right? I'm giving it a shot till at least 5 or 6 o'clock, right? That's not giving up. Calm. When you're not calm, so if you get really tough, right? You might be like, I got the truth, you know? I like pump myself up with LFG. Let's do this. I am going to do this. Nothing will stop me, right? Have you ever met people who go and act that way? They came into work with like, almost like they drank like 6 Red Bulls, right? Like had like whatever, just in case a few espresso shots. And they uttered and read the phrase, I am going to do this and nobody's going to stop me.
And you're like, whoa.
I've never seen anybody at work ever do that. I've never, have you ever had anybody come in here and do that?
No, it's not true. You saw it years ago. We were coaching startups, and before Megan went and gave her presentation,
Oh,
a
yeah,
mentor
yeah,
went
yeah,
up
yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
said,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
What was his opening speech?
I was just saying, I've never had anybody come in and be like, I'm gonna do this, and nobody, but no, oh God, that was awful. There was a presenter before me. We're teaching a bunch of founders, entrepreneurs, and the presenter before me got up to teach them how to give a presentation as an entrepreneur, and he said, first things first, he came, it was so embarrassing for him, sorry, it was like 6 o'clock at night, I think, too, he had like a Dunkin' Donuts, like coffee, whatever it was, like up to here, it's like, first thing you do, he was drinking it, you have one of these, maybe two, right? And then he just started going into like, you gotta like, high energy, and he was like yelling, and like, it was, and then he had, I don't know, he had keys in his pocket, he's like, take them out, he throws them on the desk, don't have any stuff, it just was so overwhelming, I had like this is the worst present, but anyways, the head guy gets up and he goes, everything he just said, don't do any of that. First off, you act like that, people are gonna think you're high, they're not gonna trust you, you're gonna be shaking, nobody's gonna listen to you, like, you're gonna lose creds like within minutes, thank God, like somebody corrected this guy. It was awful. But is that what you, yeah.
That's what I call reckless energy. So if you cannot tap calm, which is the complete opposite of tough, you're gonna sound like the guy with 2 giant Dunkin' Donuts, right? And just like high on like crack cocaine, right? Now here comes playfulness, right? So you can't see it because my thing is a little, I'll try to move this
It
for a
says
second.
low, it's okay, low to no agility. Oh, there you go, look at that.
I'll
Wow.
put it here. Oh, Jesus, I'm gonna cover up our logo, right? That's what I'm gonna do for you guys. Low, no agility. And that's the whole. You're coming into work hoping and bracing, and when something goes wrong,
Yeah.
my ability to adjust, my ability to be light on my feet, it's like, yeah, I didn't expect it to be easy, right? And come up with an alternate strategy, come up with another approach, right? Now, sometimes the reason something doesn't work can feel like a gut punch.
Yeah.
Well, then you know what you say? Catch your breath and let's go. As opposed to gut punch, I'm out. I'm out. I knew it was gonna be bad, just didn't know this bad. I'm done, out. Laura out for the day, right? We try again tomorrow. That's low, no energy, right? No agility. And I think of a child, they don't give up. They're like, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch them play video games, it's like, come on, just give me one more try, right? That notion of playfulness,
Yeah.
right? And playfulness is a tricky thing because if you've ever competed in anything with someone who's not playful, but is just overly competitive, they're kind of a pain in the ass and dangerous to play with, right? So since he's not here today, but my best friend from high school is Greg, and my God, is he competitive, right? And he's generally better at sports than me, but there are little windows when I got better than him. And when we play basketball at night, my God, once he got competitive in the bad way, not playful, he would do his best to try to rub out my contact lenses. Dead serious. Would use body elbow to try to knock one of my contact lenses out because then his advantage goes up. That's not playful. Listen, if you ever think
That's
of
not
what not playful is, that is not playful. All right.
I wonder if you would agree with that, yeah?
Oh, no,
So
it's
like,
happened
like
more
an
than once.
elbow, like,
I
so
mean,
it's like a smudge, like on the eye,
smudge,
like just.
like, but eye and then swipe it so it like can pop it out. One contact lens shooting is very difficult, right? Your like vision,
Get it, I
so you
got
just kind of miss the ball all the time. All right.
It's very strategic of him.
Oh, yeah. And then guess what happens if I still make the shot?
Oh.
Oh, that's like when it's like, then it's like self, like, oh, I pulled a hamstring or something. And then like, it's a game over, right? We can't finish the game. Let's leave it at like undetermined. We start again next game. Not playful. That's not playful. Just in case that wasn't clear.
Yeah.
All right, so we go on. In practice. So I'm gonna give you a real life example, right? A real life example. This is an example for me so that it doesn't stay just in theory of like, okay, all those things, but what do? Right? Okay, I got it. Truth, tough, calm, playful. Man, that's what I gotta do in 30 minutes before I get to work. Okay, so here's actually how, in a real life example of how this happens. I'm gonna blow up into more details here. So the first thing is scanning. When you wake up first thing, most people pick up the phone. Let's be honest, you gotta find out if the world's ending or not. But also, like, did anyone comms to me? The first thing I'm doing is checking in the order of text and email. And by the way, not all emails.
You'll see when you look at your email, we naturally filter from everything by who, right? Like, the classic they say is if your mother sent you a note, you read it. Now, for some of us, that's not true, right? Like, you're like, oh, here's mom again. I'll read that last. But whatever it might be, whichever side you're on, we filter by who. So you're filtering by who, and you're filtering like oftentimes if it's in large email groups, we might look at a trend, but we look at it less differently than if it's directly to me. But we're scanning very quickly of the comms sent to me. Then there's a rapid scan of news. You want to find out what crazy emergencies are occurring in the world, right? So that before you're getting out, you don't have to wear another mask in case a new virus is out, or you don't have to prepare for the cloud turning orange because oxygen is like in really bad state in New York City at one point. The whole cloud was orange because of the fires in Canada, or you don't worry about protests going on. Like, you're gonna scan the news. And at that point where I think about the bracing we have usually when we read text and email, and like I said, the top thing is nobody responded to you. So your prediction of what you thought would happen is crushed. So your energy is not really good, but it's actually a little bit angry, high spend. You read the news, so like this, after getting crushed personally, I'm like looking for, do I get crushed at a global level, but not as close to me? So like my local part, high energy, not good. Global might not be good, but like at least it's a little toned down. I might get to a place, and this is happening really fast, 5-10 minutes total here, where I'm like, you know what? There's something that's been bothering me, like something maybe I didn't read or thought I had, and you start to insert that difficult, whether it's an email, whether it's, and this is where, by the way, we're explaining this morning or talking, that my visceral V1 draft of something difficult starts. Except most of us don't do a visceral draft.
Right.
We do I'm thinking in my head what I'm gonna do or what I'm pissed about, but you might be pissed about something. But imagine if you had to actually write it down. Right? You're like, I don't like to write in bed. I'm like, all you have to do is take your phone, right? Open a notepad and hit, what's it called?
The microphone.
Yeah, dictation button and
Yeah.
just talk, right? If you can't type enough, just talk. If you happen someone else in bed, like it's harder to talk, but there's a way to actually see what it sounds like coming out of your head. We had a whole discussion on this. Most of us think we're actually dictating, but talking to yourself versus writing something that for somebody else or what you can see is a vastly different exercise. And we don't recognize, you're like, no, I kind of did that in my head. No, the did it in your head version is like completely jumbled and you give yourself way too much credit for what actually sounds like garbage once it comes out. Try to actually do that visceral draft. Now, the very last thing that I believe is important is a little playful exit out of the bed. Now, I'll tell you what this is. There's a video game I play. If you want to pick this up, totally welcome to do it. It's Greg's children, with mine, that actually got me into this several years ago. And they're like, you still play this game? There's a reason I play this game. It's called Cookie Run Kingdom. It's a very popular game, like millions and millions, hundreds of millions of downloads, but it's like a really dumb game. It's a dumb game that lets you do something playful. And all these video games are now built with like these random surprise and delights. So like I have a chance that I could get out of bed. I'm like, wow, I got a new cookie today. Or like, wow, there's a new ingredient that like, I don't even deserve that, but they just gave like gifts for the day. There's a chance, and it's kind of a high chance because these games are built to give you these surprise things.
Yeah.
There's also a chance you get frustrated, but I'll explain that separately if you're interested in the Q&A. But playful exit out of the bed, and there's a term for this, they call it herkel-derkel.
I love
Like-
this. I think it's like Norwegian or Scandinavia or Norway, somewhere, one of those. I saw it like years ago. I thought it was so cool. It's what you do in the morning, especially on weekends, right? If you can, where you're sort of like, you're awake in bed, but you're not getting up. You're just kind of reading the news. You're watching some stupid little movie or video, or you're just hanging out, right? It's like hanging out in bed, no need to get up. It's like one of the best feelings. I call it the herkel-derkel.
Now, the difference of my weekday herkel-derkel versus weekend, the weekday, if I'm really busy, is five minutes
Yeah,
in the
5
weekday.
minutes, 5 minutes.
10 when I'm like kind of doing a little extra.
Yeah.
Right? Because maybe I woke up 5 minutes before my alarm, so or like 30
Yeah.
minutes before, so I do a little longer herkel-derkel.
Yeah.
On the weekend, I can do this for an hour to 2 hours. So the version of what I do in the weekend, much longer.
Oh,
My
so
wife's
great.
like, you're still in bed. I'm like, well, if I want to really tell her what I'm doing, I'll be like, well, I'm herkel-derkeling. And my herkel-derkel version is not in this order in any way. I'm like reading random jokes and watching little videos that are funny. I'm playing the game in a much longer, process. All the stuff I didn't get to do during the week, I'm doing it on the weekend,
Yeah.
right? So anyways, then we move into tough. Now this is a 3-minute thing. You can modify this and I'll take you into, but I'm going to go into more detail in each slide. 2-minute plank. That's kind of a warm up to get tough into 15 push-ups with one leg up in each side. So it's 30 push-ups I do. I'll tell you exactly how I do this. But this notion of physically getting yourself repped into something tough, while in my head, that version 1 of the insert difficult, I am doing my second version now a little bit angry because I need to generate energy, anger physically to build up from plank to push up. And as I do that, I am writing my angry version, right? Angrier, tougher version of whatever difficult thing I started just 5-10 minutes ago. 3 minutes. And why I do this? My rule is I earn my shower. I do not earn my shower until I do this 3-minute exercise. And every morning I don't want to do it. Every time for me is almost always, I do not want to do it. But I tell myself, this is what you need to do to earn your shower. And why the plank happens, it's a ramp into the push-up, which is tougher. So then in the shower is magical. Some people love to do cold showers, and I would say you're doing tough and tough. So that would be a bad combo, right? You need to find calm. Hot shower, they say hot showers and cold showers do different things. So there might be times where you need a cold shower to wake up, but a hot shower calms you down. And most of us, some of us do, but most of us do not have waterproof phones. So I am unable to type anything in the shower. My mind is now doing the 3rd iteration of the tough thing. And the 3rd iteration can sound like, you know what, do I really care about this shit? Like, you know what, like I kind of wrote it with an angry thing I want to do, but I can totally see myself saying, you know what, I really don't care what you do. You're probably going to do nothing anyways, but it's like a calmer version that has much lower energy, right? And this is version 3. And as soon as I get out of the shower is when I am actually doing my version 4, which is I'm firing off a difficulty rep. So this is not, okay, I'm going to do it once I get to work. I'm firing it off because in this window, which is now all still less than 30 minutes, I'm hitting almost 30 minutes. I've got to create 3 versions, taking full truth, the one I didn't want, getting tough, getting calm, and then the 4th time, as opposed to, I'll send this when I get to work. We're talking about how that goes wrong. You get to work and you're expecting no one to bother you, but someone bothers you. Now, all day long, I'm saving this draft in my head. Versus I'm firing it out, and the act of firing it out gets at least 1 tough rep, 1 difficult rep done. 30 minutes, something's happened. As opposed to, I'm going to keep drafting this something that I'm going to do at some point, someday, if no one bothers me. And then you're ending the day saying, I'll do it tomorrow. Same thing occurs. Before you know it, everyone's like, why didn't you respond to this? I meant to. I've been drafting it. I have saved it. Your name is Tom Fuller. You're like, I put it in the focusing tool. It's just saved. It's coming. I'm still editing, right? You got to do the rep. Then comes playfulness. TP stands for training partner. Breakfast can be done this way. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in each one. So first thing, kind of the slide from last week around expectations. Who hurt you? Oh my God, my own expectations. I woke up with a old prediction, right, of what I thought would happen, what should be in my inbox, but didn't happen. And oftentimes that is the most common difficult thing, right? My own expectation, my own prediction of something didn't come true, and that I don't know how to process. And so I like this quote. If you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but it's to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The notion of prediction. You see something, we are predicting, we're estimating the consequence, the impact of something on me, right? I mean, when we see like Iran and possibly a nuclear war, we don't even realize it, but we're quickly translating it into an estimate of the impact of that on me. We're not quite aware of it. We're not quite sure if it's realistic because we don't ever really try to figure it out by exposing it and getting it challenged. But what you have to realize is there's an estimate you're making. And instead of facing it, exposing it, we tend to run away from it. It's nonsense, forget about it, don't think about it, shove it down, and let's go back to looking at some memes of positive, smile,
Yeah.
breathe, right? Today will be a better day, right? Like, that's how we run away from it, versus you're facing it. You're facing it in the first 5 to 10 minutes in the day.
So, sorry, can I just back
Yeah.
up for a second on this? Because we talked about this a bit this morning. This is like a harder concept where you wake up, right, and you're frustrated because you expected something. So who hurt you? I did. I expected something, it didn't happen.
Yep.
So now my reaction to what didn't happen, and you're trying to figure out, is that right? Is that wrong? You know, so, but this idea of
So-
complaining,
so can I explain?
complaining.
No, but so complaining is often more than not inward or like to some amorphous person.
Yeah.
I'm saying, say there's something that you expected, and it could be like a friend or parent. Imagine if you wrote to them again. I want you to be that annoying, like girlfriend, boyfriend, or partner, whoever it is, who's saying the 17th text of, why the hell did you not respond to me? I thought it was a good date. Like,
Yeah.
to actually write that version.
Write that version.
Who do you want to, like, you're frustrated. Write that frustrated version, because remember,
Yeah.
that's only version
And
1.
you're gonna do your.
Version 2 is gonna be, while I'm now toughening myself up physically, I'm gonna write another version of it,
Yeah,
right? And that version could sound very different,
yeah.
right? But second versions always are better than the first. Then the third version in the shower is the calm down version,
Calm down version.
before you actually write the fourth version, which fires out all in less than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It sounds like an intense rep, but once again,
Mhm.
trying to prep you for an intense world. But if you're not wanting to do that, this is not going to make any sense to you, right? Okay. Video game. This is just a screenshot of what it looks like in Cookie Run, right? You go in and you have to make cookies. The characters are cookies. So like I have to like get flowers, I have to make milk, I have to like make blueberries, sugar. I mean, there's like all kinds of stuff that you have to do. And it's so fast, so mindless, and you can choose to invest full hour in the game in the morning, or I can do it in a minute. Like, and there's rapid solutions and rapid things. So what, once again, it's got a possibility of upside surprise, but I'm like beginning to learn to play. You do your own version of it. But what I can tell you, consistency matters. I'll pick a new game every day. Oh, that's the worst thing. It's got to be so automatic, right? It's just automatic. I could do this with my eyes closed. I even know where to go, and these games and everything get so complicated. Find your own version, right? Find your own version. And if you find that what I pick gets you way too frustrated, then you know what? You picked the wrong one. Find something, right? That is the most important rule, mindless,
Yeah.
but playful, and something fast, right? And the way I look at it, it's just a little extra I'm inserting because I know it's going to be a tough day, right? So I want to tap into my childlike, playing. So if you don't know what to do, go look at what your kids do, right? My daughter's like, there's a game she plays called Toca Boca. Have you ever heard of it? It's like literally just making like outfits and people and building a house with random stuff. There's no harm in it. It's just brainless, mindless, and you'd be like, oh, I created a new outfit today. That was good. Like just something mindless, playful, and fast, right? Last thing I'm inserting in my Herpel Durkle. Okay. 10, getting out of bed, right? I kind of left out the stuff that people don't want to talk about. Just like, and if you really, I wrote like, what do you do when you poop? So
We're not gonna talk about.
we're not going to talk about that one, but if you really want to know, we can talk in Q&A. But let's assume that's all done. Moving into earning the shower. So in your phone, right? And by the way, this is not the real time. So I took a screenshot, just so you know, I did not wake up at 11:10 a.m. And so this is just an example. But the iPhone clock, it's like a little wheel that turns around. I picked 2 minutes, you can do a minute. But also because it can be monotonous and it feels like, oh my God, this never ends. I break it up into 4 30-second chunks. I do a 30-second plank with both feet down. Then I do 30 seconds with one leg up, 30 seconds with the other leg up, then back to both feet down. So there's like a little bit of like kind of like a low burn activity, and the plank is an easy way to go into tough physical, but I'm thinking. And then I have to motivate the push-up. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I already did the plank. So you're already invested just 2 minutes. So then I do 15 push-ups with one leg up and then 15 push-ups with the other leg up. And when I start the push-ups, I start with like almost always like, God, this hurts. I don't want to do this. Maybe I'll get hurt. And then I start doing it. I'm like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. So then I get to it And then by the very end, with the last like 3 to 5, I'm like, oh my God, this is worse than I thought. And then I'm like, wait, actually, I think I could like do 5 or 10 more. So you end up kind of going through these emotions of, I don't want to do it. Oh my God, it's not as bad. And then there's like, oh, I could do more. I could do like, it puts you in a tough state. And I'm now writing the whole time. My mind is processing and writing version 2 of that difficult note. I are in the shower, right? So now I'm going in the shower. Now I'm in the shower, I'm like, that's a little harsh. That could piss them off and that could have a chain reaction of other consequences. Do I really want to pick that fight? Is it really that important to me? So I'm like now redrafting and editing that version in my head. And since you can't write in the shower, on one hand, I want to get out of the shower fast because the more I'm invested in that draft, right? I want to put it down before I forget, but you can only, wash yourself so fast, right? Or whatever you do, conditioner. They say don't wash your hair in the morning, use conditioner only. So that matters, but like, yes. Like, I heard that from Roman.
He said, don't wash your hair.
Don't wash your hair in the morning because it'll make dry, just use conditioner. So if that helps you.
He never said that. I don't know what you're talking about. Just to you?
Yeah, no. So like, it just dries out your head. So that's a little side tip, not the class, but if there's one takeaway, boom, there you go. Right. And then you've done a difficulty run. Then comes playfulness. This is as much as possible what Megan and I do for breakfast. We sync up, we get in. You can see our turmeric shot in there, green apples, pecans, both of our coffee cup. And then I pick the color of the straw every day based on what I think she needs mood-wise, right? And so there's like a little signal I send via the straw.
Today, actually, I was done with it. I got a signal if you need a toughen up girl. So I got like a
Red straw.
like a brighter red, but when it's pink, it's like, okay, calm the fuck down a little bit,
Yeah, so all different things.
Yesterday was a calm the fuck down kind of day.
You find your place.
And by the way, there's a little beet bud in there,
Oh, yeah.
because we eat the peas, we have from sugar peas, though they're.
Sugar snap peas.
Sugar snap peas growing, and so you're supposed to eat like a fresh vegetable that's been in the sunlight, like right away, whatever, so did that, and I was like, it's kind of nice, like, we're like peas in a pod, peas in a pod.
And we've taught this in earlier classes, like one hand to cut apples like this, it just takes a little extra time, but while we're prepping, like we each have our roles. Like my role is to get the iced coffees ready and fill the water bottles with ice water. Her role is to cut the apples and the pecans. And the way the apples are cut, it's almost like a metronome. It gives us, while we eat, a sense of how much time it will take before breakfast is done, right? And why that matters is because we can take it too long. Imagine going and starting a day with an unknown amount of time for breakfast. Right? So today's breakfast could end up being a 5-minute breakfast, or today's breakfast could end up being a 3-hour breakfast that never really ends. And we just keep moping and talking about like, we got to get to work.
Yeah.
So you can almost visually see the countdown, right? We usually have a slice of apple with a piece of pecan on top, kind of tastes like apple pecan pie. That's your thing?
To me, it tastes like the candy apples, like caramel apples, just without the.
Just so you know, except without the sugar, because
Without
green
the
apples do
sugar.
not taste sweet, which it took a while for me to get used to it. Megan likes green apples, she's more of a sour
Sour.
person. And I do not, I like more of the sweet stuff, so I'm more of a sweet
You're so
person.
sweet, I'm so sour. Sour. You
But
like sour too?
I have stomached the green apples and now I actually kind of got used to it,
Love sour.
right? So now when I have a red apple, I'm like, oh my God, it's full of sugar.
So sweet,
Yes.
yeah.
So you
They
can
are
condition
delicious.
yourself into anything. The ultimate
God.
flex.
Oh, you guys, I love
Right?
this. I was saying to Charlie, the ultimate flex to me, that is what I want to get to so badly. Like, so I say so badly, but some of the stuff I don't quite do as deliberately. So is that true? I don't know, but that's a whole other thing. Ultimate flex. They used to say it's like if you have a nice home, you have a nice car, you have whatever. And now they say like if you're fit, like, being fit, like physically fit is an ultimate flex. So it's saying you make time for it, you have whatever. But I think the idea of being clear, strong-minded is the ultimate flex. Like, because if
It's
you're
not the physically.
if you're strong-minded, clear-minded, strong-minded, like mentally, like super healthy, you can do anything. You will do anything, right? If you say, I want to get physically healthy, you will do it. If you want to go accomplish some other great thing, you will find a way. I feel like that. So I don't know if you guys ever saw Friday Night Lights, the series. It's older. I love it. Coach Taylor. Oh my God. Love that show. I've watched the series many times, but the phrase they have, it's like a Texas football team, and Texas football is huge. And they talk about, all before the games, the high school games, they're so pumped, they're pumping up. And the coach gives him like this really tough love speech, Coach Taylor. And then right before he like finishes his tough love, he'll say, clear eyes, full heart. And then they all go, can't lose. And then before they run out to the field, they slap the P for Panthers. Like, so everybody's like, clear eyes, you know, full heart, can't lose, can't lose. And like, and they like run out to the field. It's awesome. It's like that's the flex, like clear eyes, which is I'm clear-minded, right? Like, but I have a full heart, like nobody's gonna stop me. Can't lose. It's so good. So good. Watch Friday Night Lights. Even just watch the first few episodes of the first season. You'll see when they do this, it's awesome.
And by the way, like, so I have not actually seen that show, but Megan showed me the little clip. It's kind of cool, right? The little pump up phrase, clear eyes. I think clear eyes, we're talking about it. And I think about the fact that if you're masking truth, if you're letting yourself
have clear
get a
eyes,
half
yeah.
truth, that is not clear eyes, right?
That's true.
You have to be able to see good and bad for what it is.
Yeah.
Full heart is actually getting yourself to a sense of tough, calm, and playful, right? And when you get that, you can't lose. Now, it might take more than one day, it might take more than 1 week, but you can't lose. And if you keep pressing with this 30-minute routine so that you're starting the workday, clear eyes, full heart, you will get to a place when you repeat this, that the probability of you doing better is just much higher.
Can I actually,
yeah.
Richard, you're asking a great question. I was gonna get at this either before when I was, sorry, on a prior slide. This idea, he's saying, is insert difficult a single item or do you target or the item to target, or do you increase this to multi-targets as necessary?
Wow,
This is this
I
morning.
love the,
we
I
talked
love the
about this.
overachiever question here. How many of these can I get done?
Ooh.
Why don't you start with one? If you can do that consistently, then move to say, how about today I do 2?
Okay, but
Right?
but this is what, this morning you said to me,
Ah,
67%. So actually, I was gonna try to bring this up, but I didn't know exactly how it fits in. So Richard, I appreciate your
Oh, yeah.
question.
That's a good
So
question.
this is really good. So
I
when
take my
wait,
take my
take
star
it
kicking
back,
back.
take it back. 'Cause
It's
this
a
is-
good question. It's a good question.
great
You're right, you're right.
question, and
So-
I was working on this morning, so. Okay, you wake up, and this is what I typically do, I know there's something at the core, so say supermajority, 67%, there's a main thing that's bothering me. I'm frustrated that XYZ person didn't email after I was up all night working on that, it didn't get a response, and now it's triggering me into a whole series of bad things that are about to happen today, tomorrow, the next day, through the weekend, and then into next, and my life is over kind of stuff, okay? But I
love
will.
that my life is over.
over.
My
But just
life is
whatever.
over kind of stuff. I don't know if anyone heard those little details.
Catastrophizing to the extreme, okay.
Okay.
That's the extreme. There's other things that are bothering me. I didn't sleep well. I had restless leg. I got up multiple times last night. I'm starving. I don't feel like working on XYZ today. I've got lip class.
Okay.
I don't think the presentation's fully right. We need to think about whatever. So there's all these other ancillary things, but there's a core thing.
Which is the
The
67%.
67%. That's the
Supermajority.
majority. So I will easily distract on all those other things. I will make the
Ah.
thing.
So can I add to this?
Yeah.
This is actually very cool. So,
Add to this,
so
yeah.
Richard, I apologize. Great question.
Yeah.
But there's a nuance that's interesting. First, separating the complaints from actually what you need to get done. So restless leg already happened, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, you will get breakfast. So we don't
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to go nuts, like in feeding into I'm starving and like
Yeah,
as
yeah.
if you're not gonna get breakfast today, right? Like there are things that like, no, but I'm saying
It's a
they're,
great example,
right?
because you're right, I know if I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat, you know?
and if
It's
you
not-
didn't sleep well, you can't change what happened. Maybe you can do a yoga nidra and make up for
Yeah,
it,
that's
or
a-
do a cold plunge.
Right,
But
right.
there are some things I'm like, you have to be able to separate all that like noise
It's noise.
Right?
It's noise.
versus what you need to get done. Now, almost always, most days, you will have, if you can really put your mind to it, what I would call that 67% task, right? That is the hardest thing, the supermajority that matters most. If you accomplish, make forward progress on that,
Then,
that would be a good day.
yeah,
You should be able to walk out when someone pats you in the back, you're like, yeah, I know. That was a good day.
that was a good
Okay.
day.
Now we have also a lot of ancillary, what I would call the 33% or less stuff, right?
Yes.
That does exist.
Yes,
So it's up to you. What do you want to go tackle?
yeah,
Because on one hand, in the 30-minute rep, if you knock out one of your 33% stuff, there's one less thing I'm walking around with,
right.
right? So if you are starting, you might want to start there, but just in case you could, because guess what? It's like playing Cookie Run.
Mhm.
You might get a legendary cookie. Like,
Yeah.
start with a 67%, much harder.
It's much
And you'll
harder.
see the 67% stuff. One of the biggest mistakes people make is think it's a eureka moment, a one action done success, or one wrong move, failure. You'll see most times it's not.
Mhm,
It's like
mhm.
usually 7+ things that need to occur in a row right, or 7 things have to happen in a row wrong before something really goes bad.
Right.
Most things are these continuous spectrums of a lot of stuff. So as you get good, even on the 67%, you might be able to knock out one
of the
step.
30%. Oh,
right?
out of one
Maybe
step of
it's
the
2 steps,
67%.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're an
right.
overachiever, I'm gonna try all 7 at once, you'll see how you fail, then you try to dial back to maybe 1 step. Then you see you fail in that, so then you go into, how about I knock out an ancillary 33%,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, so there are some options.
Because what you're saying, and another way to do it, right, is you could pick one of the things that are in the 33% and try to ramp up to get to the 67.
Hmm.
But if you can start on the one that's the big thing, that if I make a dent in this thing, it's gonna be a great day. I think we tend to be like, that one seems too hard, so let me,
But, so this is where self-awareness comes in, which I know it sounds so easy, but it's
Yeah.
the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Are you aware of how you're coaching yourself? The 67%, I'm coaching myself, and this is impossible, why bother? Well, you're not even gonna take a shot. So you have to be aware that you're doing that.
yeah. you have
The
to
other
already
one, the
doing that.
33%, you're like, this is easy. Well, then go do it, right?
Then go do it,
So
right.
like, but then you're like, feels a little unfulfilling, doing the easy stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like, so then notch it up,
Then notch it up,
right?
right,
You have to be aware
yes, yes.
of kind of what chatter is going on, what you're trying to do, but when in doubt, pick the more difficult one. It'll give you a more accurate read.
Mm.
And then when you fail, instead of saying, that's it, I'm done with this strategy, I'm going back to the memes of smile, breathe, it's gonna be okay today, right? Then try that for a while and see if you don't, if it works, great.
Yeah,
But most of you, it won't work. You need another tool,
yeah,
which is why the 30-minute morning routine is a very effective way to increase the probability of
Yeah.
succeeding.
yeah,
And the ability to start your morning on the workday,
right,
actually getting something difficult done. I don't think you realize how much of the day is spent not really getting anything done, hunting down a few more shit eggs, not sure who needs to hear it, and then continually rehearsing this draft that I've been rehearsing, but not realizing that I never even wrote it once, or maybe I have a draft that would never send, right? And then the more I postpone, you know what ends up happening? The expectation of anybody,
Mhm.
right? Here's the problem with the world we live in. Everything is time-stamped. Whether it's a text, whether it's an email, whether it's a WhatsApp, it's time-stamped. So if you respond back and someone's like, that's like 16 hours later, or that's like 4 days later, or even if that's 3 hours later, and you could have said the exact same thing you said, which is just a little heart emoji, or a thumbs up emoji, or sounds good, you could have said that like in
Yeah.
like the first 10 minutes,
Yeah.
you got it. But we waited 3 hours, or we waited from, I got the note like maybe Friday, I waited all day Monday, and I decided to send that at Monday, 6 PM.
It's so interesting too, because we were talking about this last night, that, or maybe yesterday somewhere, that the longer you wait to respond to something, your own truth, right? Your authentic truth, you start distorting it, you start manipulating, and then you look back, you're like, how did it get there? It's because you didn't share the truth when you got it, right?
Well, you didn't draft
You
when
didn't
you
draft
had
it when you got
that
it.
visceral
Yeah,
energy.
yeah, right. You didn't draft it.
And
when
then
had
you
the
didn't,
visceral-
redraft it under the right conditions, whether it's tough, whether it's calm, right? And then you didn't actually send anything. Let's get that straight. You didn't send anything, right? So, and then the problem is this, the longer you wait, whatever response, the expectation on the other side is going up higher. Oftentimes way higher than you realize.
Mhm. Yeah,
We think, yeah, but I got a lot. I just happen to have a whole box of stuff. I just fire them all off. The ability to capture your visceral and then eventually to be able to actually action it in a timely basis, that's a learned skill.
Yeah.
And if you don't, what you don't realize is when you respond to someone's note,
Mhm.
right? And it's some low calorie, short response that you could have and should have done minutes after you got it, but you chose to do it after drafting and drafting and drafting, and you sent it like 12 hours later, like, you're gonna wonder why they're so pissed at you, right? Like, it's because the expectation in your response was much higher. Should have been more thoughtful. You spent all that time, right? And then you might be like, well, this is a safe note. Well, see, like now they feel the
Yeah.
inauthentic nature, they see the, so on one hand, people say, we talked about this morning, volume does not equate to authentic or quality. Volume does not equate to authentic or quality. Machines think it is. So when we built our feedback app, right, the team under Tom and whatnot, they used all these linguistic tools to figure out what is the highest likelihood of feedback being authentic. And it basically determined as a machine, the more you write, the more authentic it is. Well, guess who figures that out? Human beings that know how to beat the algorithm. So they just write a lot more blah, blah, blah. They just expand everything, right? So it just is a lot more volume. You don't think we know how to do the same thing on email, right? We know how to make it look like I spend a lot of time on it, right? And then you look at it and you're like, they kind of said nothing, but there's a lot I had to read. And now I'm kind of pissed off that I had to put my mental energy reading a lot that I thought was supposed to be like valuable, authentic thoughts. You trick someone like that, how many times do you think you get to trick them? Twice? 6 times, right? For the last year, last 5 years? I mean, you pick. Before, you do not even realize the erosion of trust that's occurred on a what you sent kind of note. And then there's when you get a note, you don't respond. Now you don't even know what you're not getting. See, adjustments are occurring everywhere. You don't even know now how people have adjusted to it. So this is the
Right.
part that gets tough in
Right.
this. Go ahead, Richard. You can unmute.
Yeah, go ahead and unmute.
Thanks, guys. I'm really intrigued to know, for that 30 minutes, how much, I mean, I know it's divided up into subsections, but how much energy are you putting into that 30 minutes? I'm intrigued to know, well, obviously we only have so much energy we allocated throughout the day. We're looking at those key priorities throughout a given day. But like for that first 30 minutes, how much are you pushing in there?
So on one hand, a lot, but on the other hand, a lot less than you think. And it's actually more natural than you realize. It's more organic. At the same time, there's a question that's baked in, underlying sort of like question, which is, could I run out of energy? Don't I have to conserve it? And there's a lot of psychologists and neuroscientists who've covered this.
Yeah.
That human beings, right? Like spending energy gives you more energy if it's spent right, by the way.
Right.
Spending energy unproductively literally makes it even worse. Versus spending energy productively will give you more energy. This guy, Jim Lear, says, we are built to ride waves, up and down, oscillating machines. That's what we are. We are oscillating machines. You spend, you recover, you spend, you recover. But people who spend unproductively, they don't oscillate. And so think about the person coming in, right? Okay, I'm gonna have a good day. I'm gonna have a good day, right? On one hand, are they spending energy? It's kind of silent spending. And then something happens, right? Startled embrace. Now I'm like thinking, oh my God, I gotta draft my note, right? Hoping, bracing, hand wringing, drafting, save as, wrong word choice. I mean, you're spending a lot of energy,
I
right?
think you're right that at the high level, we're all, in general, we're energy conservationists, right? Like we're, as human beings, we're worried about running out of energy, right? I mean, I think that is like a human trait that we all have, but it is fascinating that if you, and I'm sure you have had conversations where you're like exhausted, but you get on a roll and an interesting conversation, an interesting topic, and you're like, I feel wide awake. Like, how does that happen? It's because energy in the right places, or energy on the right energy, and I don't know how to talk about that, but the right energy will fire you up. So then you could even do more. But I think because we're so naturally looking to conserve, how do I conserve and make sure that I have enough energy to go do something in case it comes up? I might need this energy. So we're actively trying not to spend it.
So think
Right?
about it this way. if you're worried or running out of energy, which is
Yeah.
exactly the right way
Yeah.
we think about it.
Yeah,
Why the hell are you an idiot to go and cold plunge, which requires energy before you start the day? If you're worried or running
Yeah.
out of energy,
you wouldn't do that.
why are you like doing a workout, walking or biking to work? You should go in an automatic wheelchair so you can conserve as much energy,
Yeah.
just whirl in with minimal movement with your little hand of your chair. No, I'm saying that's what we're
So
actually,
true.
right?
It's like, let me just not move as
Why-
much, be a sloth, like, don't move as much
Why
as
even
possible.
walk? That's wasted energy, right? Literally, get those little machines, get in and just like, as far as food goes, why chew?
Yeah.
It's blended
Liquid,
before
liquid,
and
yeah.
just, straw,
Smoothies.
drink, right? Like elevator and everything, like,
Yeah.
and that's actually wrong.
It's such a good
Right?
point. It's such a good point, because sometimes before a plunge, sometimes I'm thinking, is this the right thing? Because I'm like, shit, I'm exhausted. Like, we'll do it when we have like 4 hours
When
of
she
sleep.
means the plunge, it's cold plunge, just for
Oh,
those of you who
plunge,
are
the
not.
Plunge,
you know?
we take the plunge.
Yes.
But like but it's true, I always feel more energy after, every time, always.
Yeah.
Always, 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 always. But before you go in, you're like, shit, could this just drain every extra little piece of conservation battery that I have packed away in case I'm here till 3 a.m? Like, I'm like, oh no, this could be, I fear wasting it.
Yes, and so I'll give you the flip side example, as Megan even said. Fires you up is what she said. It gives you more energy.
Yeah.
Have you done something, right? Where you took risk and it worked out, right? And it worked out and someone, whether thanked you for writing that or it worked out.
That also
Right
gives
there,
feeds your
you
dopamine.
just get energy.
Yeah, well,
And
yeah.
right then, right? Most people say, okay, I should take a break. No.
Yeah, that's what you-
Before you lose it,
Correct.
go attack something even more difficult. And that's the mistake people make. They're fired up and then they're like, let's go have lunch,
Yeah.
right? Or they're fired up and they're like, let me take a little break before I go tackle something difficult. When you get that energy, you gotta use it.
Use it, right? 'Cause
Right?
that's the courage you get, right? You get a dopamine hit from the good thing that just happened. So you use that energy to go try something else because
More difficult, more
difficult.
Right? As opposed to you're like, oh, I have all this energy now. I'm going to go tackle like a little nuanced thing on my checklist, right? I gotta go shoot my, kid or my spouse a note about, don't forget this, and I have to do that. So I'm just gonna get that done. No, you use that energy and you're like, let me tackle something
It's
difficult.
because
Let's fix
where-
education.
Yeah.
like, I know this sounds crazy. We've done that, right? Suddenly we go on a rant and we're like whiteboarding and stuff on how to fix schools. And then we're like, okay, maybe we picked the wrong one.
Now I'm
That might have been too
exhausted.
tough.
We need a nap.
Or there are times you're like, oh, this is brilliant. I really want to do this. See, that's what happens. When you create and you're like, I want to do this. And then you're like, how do we do this? Is there someone we can do this with? Is there a school? Is there someone we know?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, how about I fire off an email right now and ask that person if they want to come meet and I'll take a picture of my thing and boom, send it to them.
That's totally how it happens.
And totally how it happens. And they wrap back saying, this is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Or most often, no response.
Silence
Now I'm recycling, right?
through the whole.
The whole
exercise.
process again.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes.
Yeah.
It takes these bursts of energy. I wrote this thing down. Oh, mental hit reps. We think about hit, right, as high
Intensity interval training.
intense interval training, but you only think about it as physical,
Right.
right? And we've all become these like kind of physical obsessed, nutrition, sleep, exercise, meathead obsessed people. Like, can you please stop dialing that up and instead dial up what matters far more, which is mental. The mental in the stats and research is 5 to 6 times more important. And it's so underdone that it's like the ratio of imbalance is so massive, right? You are a mental wimp. You are a mental vegetable, unable to tackle what's showing up in the world today. So like, you're like, well, but I did my push-ups. I did my, I drank my green juice. I'm like, fuck the green juice, fuck the push-ups. Balance the other side. Like, it's missing. It's why you're falling apart. There's no more supplement or vitamin or whatnot that's going to change any difference until you start to work on the mental side. So mental hit reps, that's what this is. And if you start the day and you happen to actually hit one, right, that's good. Guess what? You're fired up. So now as you're coming in, you're like ready to tackle something difficult.
Also, Monica was asking what happens when you don't invest in this 30-minute routine. You come in feeling like a wimp and you can't tackle big problems. And I've had especially working with Charlie as a TP, right? Like if I come in not in this, if he's done that routine and I haven't, I mean, this, and again, we're figuring this out as we go, right?
The quest.
Oh my God, the quest to figure this out is when shit hits the fan. And you know that feeling of, how did I get into this argument with him again? It's because my mindset isn't coming in the same as his, matching the energy of, we're gonna tackle something huge today. And we're not gonna not figure this out. We're not gonna it's like the over my dead body energy, or we're not gonna figure this out today. Or like make a huge dent in this project today. And if you work with somebody who is trying to do that and somebody who's not trying to do that, it's just terrible. If you're solo working, right, you're trying to figure out, you know, what happens when you don't do that. It's just, you're not gonna get anything great done. I mean, I think that's just the reality is you'll back out of the hardest problems and probably start checking off the things that are easier. I mean,
I started a class like talking about morning routine and
Yeah.
the tweet said it's like stretching
yeah, it's a good
before
one.
the sprint,
I love it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, well, the right kind of stretch matters, right? You know, I stretch my fingers. Well, that's not helping you when you go and sprint, as in running.
Yeah.
Like, you have to stretch the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? You have to warm up the right muscles, in essence. You have to warm up your brain that wants to go tackle difficult stuff and accomplish. That's what the warm up is. Not like I warmed up my stomach to get ready for breakfast, or I warmed up my ability to come in and, you know, hunt for shit eggs. Like, what are you warming up? And that's what we're not aware of.
Yeah.
We're warming up for something.
Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes you not warm up, you were just like thinking,
Not
I
warm
can
up
just
at all.
not warm up at all, just jump right to the
But-
class,
But can I
right?
tell you, like
Like the
you
like the
think you're
fitness
not.
class, I'll just jump in.
I'm saying you think you're not, you know, a lot of us
You are,
warm
yeah.
up with the fake, like, it's gonna be better than yesterday. I was like, that's what you just warmed up.
Right.
You warmed up your, you know, condescending trash talking, right? It's condescending actually to yourself. Like when someone's giving you the golf clap, come on, don't give up, you can do it, right? You can do it. That's what you're warming up. And so why does my day turn shitty? I'm like, who the hell was that? Every day I come into work, they're sitting on the side saying, go ahead, you can have a better day than yesterday. Don't worry, right? Who the hell is doing that? And that's shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Right?
seriously.
It's you doing it to yourself, right? Like that Rob Olson, the Navy SEAL quote, the only easy day was yesterday. That's a badass saying, right? If you're warmed up saying the only easy day was yesterday, saying today's gonna be harder and I am elevating for it, that's what I warm up for. Versus I wrote here, here's what most people say, the worst day is yet to come, right? Most people warm up for that. Today could be worse than yesterday, right? The worst is yet to come. I am getting prepared for that, right?
It's the exact same statement. just
Same statement.
backward.
Worst is yet to come,
Worst is it.
right? Any other questions or reactions or I didn't get a chance to read the chat.
I was doing.
I was gonna show you a video of Michael Phelps, if you ever find it, it's really cool. But he is the most decorated Olympian in history, and it's fascinating, even his warm-up of what he does to get ready for the match. Now, Olympic swimming match, I mean, it's so short, it's like minutes, right? Sometimes seconds. Vastly different than kind of getting ready every single day. And a lot of times we're like, well, I'm not an Olympian, right? Yeah, but we're not looking for you to train like an Olympian, nor actually compete in the Olympics to be number one in the world, right? Number one in the world in that thing from everybody in the world. That's not what we're doing here. But you can do a lot better than what you are now. And I remember Jim Lear used to always say this, the hardest thing about work for most of us is that you don't treat it like, you know, like
Yeah.
it's almost like a lot of sports, there's game time and none of the other stuff matters as much except for game time. So you get to train and prep and do your massages and, you know, like go and talk to your nutritionist and do all that stuff to get ready for game time. The problem in work is it's not so separated. When is game time versus when is training time? Like, can someone tell me like when that block is? Because in sports, it's very clear when there's
Yeah.
game time and
Yeah.
then there's training time
Yeah.
and then there's off time. It's kind of much more difficult because, wait, is there an end? Can someone like, it's like one of those Brazilian barbecue restaurants, when someone flips a thing green, right? It's game time. And when it flips or like red, it's like stop time. That's for meat coming to your table. But like, I'm saying, who decides that?
Yeah.
So suddenly you're in the middle of a conversation, you're like, whoa, I thought this
That's
was,
it.
this was
Yes.
like,
It'd be like an Olympic athlete who's just doing a scrimmage or practicing or swimming laps, just practicing, all of a sudden you're like, no, it's the match. This is it. This is mission. This is game time. That's exactly what happens when you're not prepared, right? In the business world, you think you're kind of in a practice match and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, things just got real. Are we in the game right now? And that's when you get startled. You're like, what's happening? You start spiraling, like I didn't realize this is getting a lot more serious, a lot more scary. Wait, we have to make decisions right now. Like it's here, it's happening right now. It's like saying you're in the match. You got to win this one right now. You're like, I wasn't ready for that. I thought we were going to have a warm up discussion, that feeling. That's exactly why you have to be prepared. That's why that's why the first 30 minutes matters a lot. That preparation. If you did get the difficult thing rep done first, you would come in feeling more prepared.
Sorry, I just put in the Phelps.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
want the Phelps video, you can click on it. Someone asked if I could see the video. It's like a whole chain. It's cool stuff. Like, I think it's cool stuff because there's a lot you can learn from number ones.
Mm-hmm.
Vastly different than just someone who made the Olympics.
True.
But also keep it in mind, like keep it in perspective. For example, he for 5 years never took a day off swimming, training. You don't have to say, well, I want to be like Phelps, because like, you're not realistically, and you don't need to do that. There is a consequence to everything. If you overtrain, right? It kind of scares people around you, to be honest. So you got to learn to dial it down, which is why the tough has to balance with calm.
I'm glad you liked the class, Richard. It was a cool class
Yeah.
because it is, overnight, we're like, God, is this the right thing, right? Because the whole conversation was, there's no point teaching this 30-minute routine if you're not trying to tackle
Like,
hard mission.
you want me to
So
give you a
it feels-
sense of what we were gonna teach? Because there's a lot of.
I don't think they care right now what we're gonna teach, but.
I get
Okay,
excited
fine,
stuff,
fine,
so I'll share it because I get excited. Am I sharing differently?
It's funny with a different lens on preparedness, like
Yeah.
preparedness being kind of this thing to get to playful, to get to like, clear end, like kind of like strong.
I'll
It's like
flash
both
this
of-
slide that we're
Versus like
gonna
when you
teach.
think of preparedness, like you envision bracing actually, we're like, right.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
but
You
that's like
can
what's your,
look
that's what
prepared.
you like.
Which is like, I'm
Think
prepared,
of.
I'm bracing, I'm ready.
Yeah,
It's
like
like the
what
What we
opposite.
talked about in the last lib class where
Yeah.
bracing makes you feel like you're
You're
gonna,
preparing.
you're prepared,
Right.
but you're
It's
not.
like a
So
false
we were gonna teach
Yeah.
a follow-on to last lip class, which is I want to
Yeah.
know versus I want to learn.
So just so you know, I love this, and I wanted to teach this because I feel like it's important, but we can talk about it after, and maybe we'll teach more of it next week. Because remember last week we shared this, we didn't add the green down
Yes.
below.
But the top part is, you're actually saying, I don't want to know, as in the full truth. And you're saying, I don't want to learn. And then the worst is when you add fake curiosity, and once that gets
So-
exposed, it's bad.
That's what I mean, like if you actually can say, utter the truth, which maybe how you feel at times, which is I actually don't want to know the truth and I don't want to learn. And so this blurted out. I actually said that this week, just to say, there was a moment where I was like, no, I don't want it. And I actually don't want, like that feeling of just, I want a tantrum. What that leads you to do is start faking curiosity.
And then,
I'm faking the fact that I want to know. What is
Oh,
that? What
if
do you
you
mean by
don't
that,
admit
Charlie?
that.
When I said that, what did that do? Or I'm in so much shame right now because I just did that, so I'm gonna spiral, right?
so this
we'll
is the
have to
other
get-
class we're creating, and then chose to take this different path, which is all around how we think about the past versus the future, and how much energy goes into replaying decision forks in the past, despite the fact that it's done. And you don't get a chance to replay that decision fork, and how that happens. I love this, sorry, we're clothes. There are paths that are close to you, but we keep replaying it as if we can retake that path. And why that happens is when you don't spend time risk-taking, playing offense. So 80% of your mind share should go into offense. 20% into lessons, defense, kind of looking for something that go wrong and kind of, hey, I'm gonna mitigate risk-taking. But when you don't have offense, the 0% offense, you have way too much mental energy. The reason why, said very simply in plain English, that you're being such a shitty human being, is because you saved 80% energy that needs to be spent tackling ambiguity unknown. Instead, you're putting 100% doing one of two things, right? Probably both at times. I'm replaying the past and going through every decision fork that I could have taken differently, right? It's what they call the idle mind or the devil's workshop, or you love to go into gossip, rumination, or the other part is like, I'm preparing for every difficult thing that could happen, right?
And I think there was a stat that we were gonna share. They say 85% of the negative things that you think are gonna happen, don't happen. So you're over preparing for all these like accidents and all these bad things. And that's a lot of mental energy spent preparing for when something goes wrong. So that happens just because you don't put enough into offense, right? And offense is where mood matters, clarity of strategy or direction matters. And then there's a whole class we're going to teach on saying no. Human beings are very bad at saying no. So saying no to the wrong people, the wrong projects, but can I tell you the top thing we're bad at saying no to is our own mind talking, right? Pushing us into all kinds of, the reason why you should be able to say, shut the F up to your own mind is because we're really bad at saying no to our mental chatter. It's not doing you any good, but you're like, well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm entitled to it. I'm like, well, what do you think happens if a coach you hired, right, did that first thing in the morning throughout the day? I mean, you're like, well, not surprised they failed. Well, that's you not being very good at saying no. And the top thing you're not saying no to is your own mental chatter. So that's a little jump from the saying no to the right who, saying no to the right project, the right goals. But we're not very good at saying no in general. And that is something that coming from the industrial age, we're trained to say, yes, sir. You know, what the boss wants. Do you understand? Yes, I do. We're trained to say yes, right? Into factories and industrial age. There's a whole conditioning, right? You read the news, it's not like, yes, this is correct. You have to say, no, this might not be correct. Like someone says, oh, I'm feeling sick. Here's a solution. Instead of saying, yes, thank you, you have to go, no, that might not be the right thing. Just because the doctor said it, right? It might not be the right thing. So I'm just saying, that's a whole class we're going to teach, and we thought too complicated. So, sorry, I can't help myself. I love this stuff. We're on a quest. It's a quest. Yeah, we had several other topics besides that, but there were some slides we're in the process of creating, and then change gears to morning routine, thinking this is just something everyone can do, right? And it just should increase your odds of dealing with difficulty, dealing with life, I think, generally today. So yeah, that's where we picked that, shifted gears. So I hope that was the right choice. Or there's a whole class we have on energy conservation, which is a whole nother topic. But
Endless amount of 650 million cookie coins, impressive. Could
Oh,
you
yeah.
tell them that thing? Jeez, I still
you
don't
picked
quite
up on
get
that.
it. I'm like,
yeah, in the beginning of the game you play, you'll see you never have enough gold.
do you think there's a good game for girls? I just feel like I couldn't do it. I wonder if
Honestly,
there's
no,
a-
I don't
What
believe
does
Cookie
Olivia
Run
do?
with how many people play it.
What does Olivia play?
Toca Boca.
And what is it?
It's like doing house, like where it's like a really, just like Cookie Run, dumb game.
Okay.
Where you literally can make outfits, create rooms, and then decorate the rooms.
Oh,
And so like, it just gets elaborate. You're just building like a elaborate, it's
Interesting.
like playing house.
like my
And then
house.
you can create clothes and characters and stuff and pick hair color, everything. I don't quite get the light element in that one, but I mean, once again, she seems to love it. It's constantly trying to show
Like
up.
a fun accessory or something.
Oh, I'm sure there's that.
Oh,
But so
yeah,
all these
probably.
games are
Yeah,
built
yeah,
to like
totally built
kind
on.
of make you suffer through a lot. If you invest a lot
They
consistently,
have a
they reward
Toca
you.
Boca, they have a Toca Boca hair salon.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Or a doll dressing thing, okay. Okay, well,
So let's see, I'm just
I
gonna
will give it a
type in
whirl.
How
All right,
many-
you guys, it was good to see you all. We'll see you next week. Again, don't know what it will be, depends on what happens in the week, so. All right, let's go.
Sorry, I'm gonna say,
gotta
how
go.
many downloads of Cookie Run?
We gotta go, you guys. I'm leaving. Bye, everyone.